Did you say count, Jack? Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Why, thank you there, Sugar. Do you realize that today might be your last introduction to the podcast?
No!
What are you going to do
No! Oh my God.
there? What are you going to do there, Mr. Kratz?
What are you going to do without me?
I know, I'm lost already. Well, look, thank you very much for that introduction there, Mr. Kratz. And it's really good to be here and welcome everyone. It's fantastic that you've joined us for our weekly podcast entitled Reading with Uncle Ken. Believe it or not, we're on part 63. Now, I know that my fellow panel members do not believe me, but today is going to be the last Reading with Uncle Ken.
I believe you, Doc. The other day, I believe you. I tried to tell them, but they're not convinced.
I'm going to try my very best to finish Reading with Uncle Ken. I went to my therapist and they've said to me, enough's enough, right? Enough is enough. You got to do something different. So we'll try our very best. And first of all, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your support throughout this series. It's been really touching. I hope that you guys have been entertained and that you've learnt a lot. I certainly have. Here at the Foul Play team, my fellow panel members have spent the best part of a year with me and you guys really taking apart Mr. Kratz's book. And I think when one considers all the events that are happening at this moment in time, especially with the Colburn and Netflix defamation case, you can see that we timed everything to perfection. Everything is coming to a crescendo, which has been fantastic. Well, look, guys, who have we got in chat? I'd like to welcome Ronald. We have Ronald. Who else we got? We've got Colette. We've got Jaznaz Gaming. We've got Graham Moss. Dark Side of the Moon, always great to see Dark Side. We've got Angie Dickinson. We've got JD. We've got Sheila Smokey. Who else we got? We've got Andy B. And I hate to say it, Andy, but we really do have to go. We can't stay here forever. We've got Andy B. We've got Nan's Life 7. Welcome. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Who else we got? We got Cherie Lynn Pontillo. And I promise we won't mention Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. Who else we got? I think I mentioned we've got Pete Moss. We've got TTM Fangirl. Great to see you here. And thank God you're not addicted. Who else we got? We've got more people joining us. And if I haven't called you guys out, please accept my apologies. But look, welcome. So as you know, guys, what we've been doing in this series, we've been reading passages from Mr. Kratz's book, and at the moment we're on chapter 15. And in effect, this will almost be our last chapter. Mr. Kratz has written another chapter, which I'm going to summarize because it's essentially, hey, there's sunshine. It's essentially a regurgitation of what we've already talked about. So if you're following the book, guys, we're on chapter 15. Entitled The Day the Circus Came to Town. And as you know, guys, Mr. Kratz wrote this particular chapter. This is his second edition book as a response really to Kathleen Zona and her experts. And we've spent a lot of time dissecting, especially chapter 15, which is, I think, guys, you'll agree, is huge, right? So today we're going to finish that particular chapter and round up the podcast. But first of all, guys, all of us from the Foul Play team want to thank you so much. We've hit 1.9 thousand supporters, 1.9K, which is awesome. Our target, hopefully by the end of the year, is to hit the 2K mark. And that's a big thank you to you guys. And also for the hard work of the panel members who've dedicated their time for free, come here with a smile on their face, despite us doing Mr. Kratz's book. And they always roll up, and same with you guys. And it's been really fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. If you enjoy what we do here at the Foul Play team, please subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoy our podcasts, please give us a thumbs up. That's really appreciative. And of course, turn on the notification bell. And Susan and Zoe have worked very hard to set up a merchandise store. And I think some panel members have got their merches. I know that Neverly has, and Alice, Alice has, I have, and I'm sure everybody else has merchandise. And I believe that Susan, was last week, I believe, that a check was given to the cause that we support, and that's been fantastic. Susan, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, or are you happy for the merchandise?
Yeah, we are still collecting profits to send to Uncuff the Innocent, a nonprofit organization that supports wrongfully convicted people. They kind of specialize in wrongfully convicted law enforcement, and Daniel Holtzclaw is one of their clients. They also buy body cams for police departments that can't afford them, which is a very good thing, I think. And they also help to educate the public on wrongful convictions. So it's a very worthy organization. We have another $60, I think, to send to them so far. And we'll be collecting the profits for them through, I believe it's August 22nd, which is a 6-month period. And then after that, we'll choose another nonprofit. So that's kind of the update.
It's fantastic. And guys, you know, the amazing thing, everybody in the panel and everyone in chat, you contribute in your own special way, and that's been fantastic. And hey, it's my Foul Play anniversary to TTM Fangirl. Foul Play obsessed. Really, TTM Fangirl. Welcome so much. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, your support has been really, really good. And we have just Rhonda. She's in chat. Fantastic. Welcome. Well, look, guys, thank you so much again for your support. I'd just like to say just a few little things first before we start the podcast proper and introduce the panel members. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to the open mic that was done last week. That was the deposition reading of Amy Lehman. And I think it was part one that you did, Jack 61. Is that correct?
That's right. That was part one. We'll get part two soon, sometime.
Yeah. And look, you know, what is truly impressive, and I've said it many times, the Foul Play team has a multidisciplinary approach. We do a lot of different things, including the things which are very hard and tedious. For example, reading those depositions, right? And there are so many dedicated people who put in a lot of hours of work reading those depositions, and I want to thank you all for the great work that you guys do, because, and I think you guys will agree, those depositions are gold mines, right? They really laid down the foundations to what happened to Stephen just a few weeks after, right? Being arrested, then being charged with the murder of Teresa Halbach. Everything congeals together. The timing is absolutely incredible. And we learn so much. So if you have a chance, please have a listen to that deposition. Plus, we've got a whole series of depositions that the Foul Play team have recorded, and they are awesome, absolutely awesome. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention, Jack 61, are you able to put up my first slide of my little presentation that I did?
Yeah, give me just 1 second, Doc.
Yep, no hassles at all. And this one, I need to thank Brother Yoriz who's a Foul Play staff member, who was good enough to find this particular article on DNA methylation. And we'll just wait for Jack61 to put it up. So guys, if you haven't seen this little presentation, please check it out. It's only a short one, goes for about 30 minutes or something like that, but it truly is a remarkable piece of work by the team that did the DNA methylation study. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but please have a listen to it if you can. The amazing thing is it throws up so many more questions than answers, and truly remarkable. I haven't seen anyone do this presentation anywhere else, but check it out. Leave your comments on the video. I know that Neville and some other Foul Play team members have commented on the video, and we're approaching 400 views in one day, right? So clearly it's attracted the attention of a lot of people very, very quickly. The implications are staggering, right? And essentially it talks about the DNA methylation of a piece of fabric, item A9, that was cut out from the Toyota RAV4 in 2005. And this team did some DNA age estimation of how old the DNA was in item A9. They also looked at the 1996 blood vial, and they estimated the age. And I tell you what, it really is very, very fascinating. So if you enjoy those little presentations, please let me know. Here at the Foul Play team, we try and present what we can, and we try and do it in a professional manner. And so if you find that very, very interesting, please let me know. Give us some feedback on that. Jack61, do you have any, thank you so much, Jack61. Do you have any quick comments about your FOIAs, what you've been able to obtain?
Yeah, let me pull over here just a second.
Are you muted, Jack61?
Yeah, that would help if I unmuted my mic. Yeah, I'll say, I will say just a few brief things. The next, number one, and this is the really important part. If I ever, and I mean ever, say, hey, I've got this FOIA, and it's going to be about 50 or 60 DVDs. Somebody just please come hit me. Just hit me.
It's too much.
Well, it's pretty crazy, but here, let me just see if I can get a shot of this here. And this is just a small stack.
Oh my God.
That's just
That's
one.
huge.
Yeah, and there's two more stacks over here, and they're both bigger than that one. So, but there are 55 CDs or DVDs. There's some things that we're going to be rolling out. As I promised, we're not going to roll all this out at one time. This is not going to work because it's wrong to do that. I think to everyone. I know I wouldn't like it. So, to be fair, I wanted to give Zellner a chance to go through this stuff first. I don't think there's anything that we've got that she doesn't have, but you never know, right? So
correct.
There's definitely some interviews that have never been released. I've never seen them anywhere, and some other things. So probably here in today's Saturday for us. So probably here in the next 3 or 4 days, we're going to start rolling some stuff out. Now, let me be clear. There are some things that we got that's already out there, but we didn't have a copy, and it was $1. So I thought, what the hell? We'll just get our own copy. That way it's in the library. We'll have it.
Put everything together.
Yeah, So, like the Earl Avery interview, there are some questions about some of the interviews that I have a problem with. And we'll get more into that later. I'm not going to do that now. One other thing that is interesting is that there was supposed to be 32 DVDs for the Manitowoc County radio transmissions. That's what it said in the ledger, and that's what I copied. Well, they sent me 33. And they're 33. Yeah, there's an extra one. So apparently there was a
Whoa.
miscount. There was a miscount somewhere, which is fine. I mean, I kind of have a little issue with it, but not major. But here's the real issue. When Rookie finally was able to get all of them from Manitowoc, you remember here about 90 days ago or whatever, there are actually 35 DVDs. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So I'm just, I just, I guess because I'm slightly jaded. Why doesn't Calumet County have these other two, and they're important. These other two DVDs are important to the whole thing because they contain a lot of calls, and it's two of those DVDs or Rookie have been trying to get since 2018. He's been after this stuff for 4 years. So I'm just wondering, long story longer, I apologize. I got 33. There's actually supposed to be 35. So in my return reply to Calumet County, I'm going to be asking some questions as to where are these. Look around. Are you sure you don't have these other two CDs? Because you said you had 32. It actually turned out to be 33. Are you sure it's not 35? Because I think it might be.
So Jack 60, if we don't hear from you next week, we know what's happened to you.
Oh my God.
Boys around.
Well, we want to get all the stuff out, including the source information. That's all going to be. Everybody will have a fair shot to take a look at it, draw their own conclusions. But some of these other things, like what you just went through with the blood stuff, it just kind of raises more questions and you get answers to. So
it does. It does.
The Brian, there's a question about the Brian Dassey interview too, and which it's already out there. But the problem with it is that it was done by Lisa Wilson from the DCI and the new chick. I can't think of her name. The new chick from Calumet County, Wendy Baldwin. Okay. So they're recording this interview with Brian, and it comes to the end of, just like many other interviews, it comes to the end of side A on the tape. There's a little alarm. You can hear it go up. And so, and it's even labeled, I think, side 1A. So supposedly they would be flipping the tape to go to side B and move. There is no more. It just ends. The interview is over. I mean, as far as what we've got, there's more interview, but we don't have it. So I want to know where the hell the rest of it's at.
She actually says, "I'm turning the tape over now," right?
She does.
Yeah.
So
hey,
anyway.
Jack.
Yeah.
A couple of people in the chat, including myself, are wondering, by any chance or a miracle, would there be November 4th radio transmissions? You're shaking your head no.
There is one November the 4th. We already have it. It's a 911 call. It's actually a transfer call, and it gets transferred from 911 or to 911 in Calumet from Manitowoc. It's one call on this DVD that holds 4.8 gigs or whatever. Yeah, it's one call on this one DVD. I kid you not, crazy. Yeah. And it was a searcher. It was somebody wanted to help search. So whoever in Manitowoc County transferred to the 911 in Calumet for whatever reason. So that's the only one.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Jack 61. Yeah. I think we're going to have about another 10 or 200 open mics. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Well, look, what I'd like to do, welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel. Tell us how you're going. We have Alice. How are you coming along, Alice? And happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Thank you. Yeah, it was my birthday yesterday, so I got spoiled rotten. My son and my daughter-in-law took me for dinner, got me lovely presents, and just spending time with them. So it was absolutely great. And my brother got me a new PC as well. So I'm one happy lady at the moment. So yeah. Hi to everyone.
We can hear you clearly. We can hear you clearly. No guitaring.
That's good. And my camera seems to be working okay tonight as well. So I'd just like to say hi everyone in chat. Thanks for joining us. We couldn't be here without you. And it's great to see everyone. Thanks, Doc.
Fantastic. Next, we have Jack61.
Guess I should unmute. Yeah, I mean, the last few days, I've just been going through and trying to get everything ripped and backed up. That was my number one goal. And in some kind of organized fashion, that's basically what I've been up to. There probably will not be an open mic tomorrow, but with that said, probably Tuesday, I'm going to try to plan for something and maybe roll one of these out, these things that we haven't listened to, no one's heard. It's not in the public. I will tell everyone there are 3 Jody Stokowski interviews that are not out in the public.
Hey.
So
Nice.
we'll probably, and they're, I can't remember. I think there's 20 something Brown County jail calls when Stephen had his gallbladder removed. We've got those. I don't know that we'll necessarily cover those in an open mic, but they will get released. Yours has been working on those, get those converted to video. So probably Tuesday. So probably Tuesday we'll try to look to do something.
Yes. What is very interesting, Jack61, is that in the presentation I did, the investigators used blood taken from Stephen Avery in 2016. So it'd be very interesting when he had his operation or when blood was drawn from him in 2016. So again, the scientists used that blood as part of their DNA methylation analysis. So very, very interesting.
Yeah, that operation was January of 2006 when he had to go to Brown County for his gallbladder. So he spent a week in that jail there. So
yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much, Jack61. Really looking forward to those. Next we have Neverly. Welcome, Neverly.
Thank you, and welcome back to me. I was absent last weekend, right? Yeah, I went to Vegas to a graduation party. It was beautiful to get together with some friends, and it's hard coming back because there's that thing, work. I do have a full-time job. Yeah, so I've been just adjusting on coming back and catching up and returning messages, and I haven't returned all of them, but hey, what do you do? So I'm back and I'm excited about this one, but I'm sad to hear that it's the last one.
No more, Neverly, no more. So I think, do you have some exciting announcements about upcoming projects there, Neverly?
Well, yes, it's really exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking because I've never held a podcast myself, and it seems like it's gonna happen. I'm reading a book, and of course, I can't do it all by myself because I've never done it. So I do have some help from Dr. Silkman. We're gonna be transitioning a little bit. Sorry, but I think there is going to be a really good transition from this pamphlet that we stretched out over a year to a little bit more about Ken Kratz himself, just for a couple of maybe episodes, and then get on to another book, which I'm not going to say what it is. Not that we have read everything, we have heard everything, but it's going to give us something to do until we're waiting for the petition that Kathleen Zellner just announced, I think a couple of 3 days ago, when she said that Stephen was transferred to the medium security place. The next step is bringing him home, and that the petition is coming up. So we're all waiting for that, and we're going to be a busy crew between all of the FOIAs that Jack have gotten, and with the new project over here on my side, we're going to be busy. So stick around, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neverly. Really looking forward to that. Fantastic. And welcome back. Good to see you again. And next we have Sunshine Christina. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see all of y'all. How is everybody?
Good.
And hi to everyone on the panel. Hi to everybody in the chat. I think me and Alice share well, we have birthdays very close together because my birthday was on, and I think I mentioned this privately, but I think the June birthday foul play staff members could throw a coup and just take over the show. Yeah, we've got the Honcho, we've got me, we've got Alice, we've got, I think Rhonda is June, and so is she. So
yeah, that's right, Christina. The Junes can take over.
Yep. I find that quite interesting.
Yes,
So I'm working on a crime theory exchange podcast. I did recently have eye surgery, and then Jack's getting this massive FOIA. I don't know if we'll do it this Wednesday or maybe the Wednesday after. It's very interesting, and if I can present, yeah, it could actually be something that's going to create a lot of much needed conversation. So
awesome.
And then I have some records requests in the works too. Some are repeats that that I've gotten denied for, but I'm figuring, well, heck, they're filling everybody else's, so why not try again?
Right.
And
try again.
Yeah, and then Sherry was wanting some stuff, and so I requested some stuff for her that could prove very fruitful if they are inclined to, give us a request. So, yeah, I'm excited to roast good old Kenny Boy.
Thank you so much, Sunshine Christina. Good to see you over here as well. And next we have I Don't Recall. Welcome, I Don't Recall. How are you coming along?
Oh, I'm coming along pretty well. Hello, everybody in the chat. It's really hot here today. It's about 6:40. I mean, hot for northern New York anyway. And I've been very busy at work, but things are starting to calm down a little bit, so maybe I can start participating more in the research and stuff, I hope.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And also a big thank you and a big shout out for you got me some excellent articles on DNA methylation, and they were really, really good. Very extensive, but very, very helpful. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And next, sorry, I don't recall, do you have any additional comments, or that's all good?
I'm good.
Excellent. And finally, we have Susan. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Doc. Hey, everybody. Oh, I'm just here in the Midwest trying to stay cool. It's like 100 and it feels like 107 degrees, it says.
There's a huge heat wave.
Yeah. But we do have a cold front coming in tomorrow, so
nice.
I see relief in sight.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much,
and
Susan.
I'll just say that I will believe this is the last reading with Uncle Ken when we're done.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, look, let's make a start, guys. Oh, welcome. We have Rhonda SD in the house, and I think I saw Mystic Jinx. Welcome, guys. All right, so let's start the podcast proper. Let's finish this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off the passages. Now, remember, the last time that we did a podcast, we looked at potentially Andy Colburn at the Scenic Station. So let's finish this off. I quote, and listen very carefully because this is very important. Mr. Kratz says the following. Even if Andy Colburn can somehow be made financially whole for the damage he has sustained, how will society be able to, in quote, unring the bell when it comes to what has been said about him? How will Andy or any other villains of making a murderer ever get his reputation restored to him? So the question to the panel is as follows, right? Did Mr. Kratz ever consider the impact on Stephen and his family when he was falsely convicted for the brutal assault of Penny Bernstein? So you can clearly see Mr. Kratz, he's crying for Mr. Colburn, very upset. And Mr. Kratz even said, how are you going to unring that bell? So guys, did Mr. Kratz have any care factor at all for Stephen on what happened to him and his family? Who would like to answer that? Jack 61. Jack 61.
Not. Yeah, he didn't give a shit. He didn't care. And, he's a hypocrite for exactly what he's saying about Colby and versus what was done to Stephen in 1985. It's absolute garbage. And it's another hypocritical passage saying by Ken Kratz.
100% correct. 100% correct. And guys, we must never forget what Mr. Kratz said in court, right? He said, whatever happened in the past bears no relevance to this case. So, in other words, he completely dismissed everything that happened to Stephen Avery. And guys, we know, we've covered it. What happened to him in the past was very, very important to what happened to him in the future. And Neverly, do you have an answer or a response?
Do you guys think that he helped Colburn kind of gain strength to sue Netflix? Because it sure sounds like to me like that, like, oh, what they've done to you, you should go for it. I don't know, speculation, but it sure sounds like that. No, he did not have any consideration about Stephen. And check this out. If Mr. Kratz is so concerned about Andy Colburn's reputation and pain and suffering that he has endured, and if he did, as I said, if he did say sue him, then Stephen actually did the same thing when you think about it, right?
Correct.
He did the same thing. So he's, again, talking, at the both ends of his mouth, in my opinion. So, I don't know. I am a little bit surprised that he himself did not sue Netflix or whomever, so he could stay in the spotlight. So, I don't know. Plus, one more thing. What did he say? Even if Andy Colmer, what was the question, right? Even if. Didn't he use the same words in the closing statement when he said, even if the key was planted, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're catching on to Kratz and his statements.
That's 100% correct. And it's remarkable, guys. And I'll get on to Sunshine Christina in a second. Thank you so much, then, Evelyn. It's amazing how, if you follow the Jeff Jones podcast that we're doing at the moment, we're revisiting Making a Murderer. And it's amazing what you pick up, because what the common threads in Making a Murderer are in Mr. Kratz's book, right? And he made that statement regarding the key, that so what if the key was planted? You can ignore the key. There's plenty of other evidence in order to convict Stephen Avery. So he was willing to accept that the key was planted by the MTSO officers because it looks so damn obvious that piece of forensic evidence was planted. He was begging forgiveness to say, hey, don't be too harsh on these officers. And I agree with Neverly. Mr. Kratz had no concern for Stephen Avery ever and ever will. If Stephen Avery gets exonerated again, which we all hope that he does, he will still never admit that he ever made a mistake, ever admit to that. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment?
I don't know if it's like in law enforcement and prosecutorial water. They drink it and they stop looking at convicted or even indicted people as actual human beings. It's like
Correct.
feelings for them as other humans your natural feeling for someone is just cut off. And they don't even, it's even think about Stephen Avery as a human being, but they were quick to always bring up Stephen's supposed past, and most of this is innuendo and not actual charges, to try and sell their theory of who he is. But yet,
Yes.
when you want to bring up anything that's been done to him that's legally documented, clearly happened, they want to pretend like you're talking out of your butt and you don't know what you're talking
Yes.
about. It doesn't matter. And it's sad, because that's how wrongful convictions happen. You can't say that one person is perfect and or one employment position is infallible, right? Everyone
Right.
makes mistakes. I don't care if you're a genius or you're not. Everyone makes mistakes, and if you try and sell the I don't ever screw up mentality for a whole profession, you're setting yourself up for many, many wrong convictions to occur. And the flip side to that is, not only is an innocent person sitting in prison, a guilty person is still out on the
free,
hurting more people. So you're creating victims with this ridiculous mentality.
Correct. That's a brilliant answer, Sunshine Christina. Thank you so much. It's something that we have seen over and over in many different cases. Once you've been convicted, you're in big, big trouble. No matter even if you're innocent, once you're in the system and you're being processed as someone who has been convicted, as Kathleen Zellner said, to get justice, we're talking 15 to 20 years, right? It's a cycle. So many people are sitting in prison that shouldn't be, that are completely innocent, but for their story to be told, it takes a long, long time, money, investment, and a lot of people doing research into their story. And it's so, so sad. It really is. Thank you, Sunshine Christina. Brilliant, brilliant answer. Alice, do you have a comment about Mr. Kratz?
Yeah, he did not care who he was stepping on, because all he's seen in front of him was a big case, and if he could crack that case and get a conviction, then his ego was going through the roof. He'd be getting all the pats on the back. Well done, well done, well done. So he didn't care who he trampled on. And a prime example is that is what he did to Brendan. He was an intellectual, disabled child.
And took advantage.
Still went after him, even though they did not need to. They did not need to bring that Wayne into things. And that's exactly what he did. So he did not care who was in his path when he started this case, and he did not care who went down at the end of the case, as long as he got his results and he got his pats on the back and everything like that. It was a big ego thing, in my opinion, when it comes to Kratz. He didn't care who was in the way.
100% correct. And he behaved like a show pony in the trial, right? And you can see the way his mannerism, and Neville and I were going to be reading some particular chapters in which our law professor was incredibly scathing of Mr. Kratz. And Mr. Kratz tries to admit, his shortcomings, but my God, what he did during the trials is completely off the charts. Neville, do you have a comment?
No, I wanted to confirm. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is remarkable. And I know the girls did a Powder Puff episode on the professor, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to do more documentation, more extensive analysis, and you guys will be blown away.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
By the behavior of Mr. Kratz. Now, I know that Cherie Lynn Pontilla is going to blow up, but we saw this in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Right? We saw offhand the behaviors of the attorneys, especially on Amber's side, and the win at all cost attitude. So guys, the important thing is truth is one thing, but win at all costs is another thing. The attorneys want to win. That's the important thing. The way they promote themselves up the ladder and through their reputation is to win, right? So no matter what dirty tactics are used, they will use them to win. It's as simple as that. And we were able to watch this in real time. And now look at the fallout that's taking place. It's a shocker. Mr. Kratz, I'm telling you right now, guys, on the panel and in chat, did not want Making a Murderer out at any cost. He did not want Making a Murderer out. He doesn't want you and I on the panel and the fine people in chat to talk about the case. It's as simple as that. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment?
He reminds me of a peacock. Have you ever seen a male peacock?
Oh, yeah.
How they strut around like
They strut.
thing I want to mention. Does anyone else think that the weaker the evidence, the louder, more flamboyant, more outrageous the attorney? Because
Yes.
how I saw the Amber Heard defense team. What they didn't have in evidence, they tried to make up with shock and awe, right?
Correct.
Like
Shock and
yeah, like
Correct.
unvalidated, unsubstantiated statements they knew were going to be stricken from the record because they are attorneys. They would still try and sneak them in to try and, shock the jury into buying this lie that she cultivated many years ago and just kept adding on to. And I think that's Making a Murderer in a nutshell. I think they sold the lie, and now they're stuck continuing to lie and trying to blow it up so people will react emotively and use their emotional brain instead of their logical brain. And if we can break through to where people will actually think logically about this case, I think it would just be huge for Stephen and Brendan, because anyone who takes the time to actually look into the case instead of buying he burned a cat and, played a whipped cream game with his niece, kind of thinking, if they actually look at the evidence, it's clear, he didn't do this crime. He didn't do the crime in 85. And he's not near as bad as they want you to believe he is.
That's 100% correct. And, I've learned a lot. Basically, the way the prosecuting attorneys work is they attack the person. They destroy the person. So you could be 99.99% a good person. They focus on the 1%, the 0.1%, and they admonish you and destroy you. Correct. 100% correct. And you can see the tactics that were used in court for Stephen Avery. They tried to make him out to be a monster, unsympathetic monster who attacked this beautiful woman who could do no wrong, never did any wrong at all, etc., etc. He was the demon. He preyed on her, and that was it. But karma caught up with Mr. Kratz because his predatory behavior was used to attack his own domestic abuse victims that he was meant to be representing, right? So pot calling the kettle black. So Kratz knew the game. He knew the game, and he used the hammer to try and hit Stephen as hard as possible. But it was within him. The malice was within him. Neverly, do you have a comment?
Agrees to everything we've been talking about, and he goes, not only that, but their lives are being protected, which is huge right. Statement, and very powerful statement, and that's true, and the verdict is being protected, and they will do that, until death.
Correct. And we've seen many cases where individuals have been released and proven and exonerated, and yet the prosecuting attorneys the police, law enforcement, still believe they're guilty, right? And don't forget what Sheriff Peterson said regarding Stephen Avery's exoneration. He did not believe that Stephen was innocent, right? Jean Couchet said the same thing. So they were questioning forensic evidence. And guys, now we have to question the forensic evidence that convicted Stephen Avery. We too have to ask the hard questions, right? And this little paper that I did regarding the DNA methylation, that brings up all sorts of questions and potentially puts the spotlight on Cherie Cohane in the Wisconsin Crime Lab. Isn't that very interesting? Neville, do you have any additional comments?
I'm pretty sure that we have compared Kratz with Amber, how Kratz was sitting as a chair for domestic victims, right? The victims of domestic violence. And look at Amber presenting all the women who were abused by domestic violence, by men, powerful men, right? And both
Correct.
of them are full of crap. So,
Correct.
and abused that position and ruined it for many, many people. So,
Correct.
just mind-boggling.
100% agree. And the more cases we cover, the more we see the similarities, right? What happened to Stephen and Brendan is not unique, unfortunately. It's a recurring pattern and a recurring theme. All right, guys, does anyone have any additional comments to that question? We're all good? Fantastic. Let's move on to the next statement. And that is, I quote, Andy Colburn retired from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department on December 31st, 2018. As of this writing, Andy's defamation case against Netflix and the filmmakers remains pending in federal district court. Now, isn't this incredible timing-wise? Because remember, Kratz wrote this book years ago, and here we are in 2022, and this statement he makes is absolutely pertinent to what's happening right now. Remarkable. So here's the question to the panel. Question: why is Mr. Kratz so interested in the outcome of the defamation case against Netflix? And I want to put this proviso. Is Colburn the sacrificial lamb? Is he the sacrificial lamb with this defamation case? Think about it, guys. Jack61, do you have any comments?
I got a lot of comments about that, but I'll keep it brief. As everyone, well, not everyone, but there was some recent documents just released in the case. One of them is document, I think it's 253-4. Anyway, there are some really interesting pieces of information in there. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet or not, Doc.
I've seen some of the documents that you've put up. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get into it later. There's some really interesting things in there, but I got to tell you that, I mean, just from my perspective, I think that what I can, just looking at this overall, considering how many lawyers turned Andrew Colburn down, he was gaslit. Yes. He was set on fire with gas. He was set on fire. And but for him to continue to pursue it, right up until the end of statute of limitations running out, basically. Correct. And here comes, and Greaseball runs in on his horse and picks it up. I don't know. I see a couple of different things here, and I want to add this since we're talking about it and we were talking about Ken Kratzman ago and convicting a murderer. Now, there's a connection here. Can't ignore it either, because no. I truly think that Kratz thought that this was going to be his baby when he was on that project, and it was never his project. So there's a connection there. Did he help Andrew Colburn? I think he probably did. He may be the one that gaslit him the entire time.
That's it. 100%. I agree with you 100%. because we've gone through Mr. Kratz's book, right? People in chat have been following along for a year, and Andrew Colburn and Lenk are mentioned every second sentence, right? And here's Mr. Kratz talking about the defamation case, because I have a feeling, depending on the outcome, either everyone's going to join in, right, on a massive civil suit against Netflix, or everyone's going to run away. So it'll be very interesting what the outcome, and Netflix knows this.
That's right.
Netflix, they know the potential domino effect that it's going to have, right? So the outcome is actually very, very important. Jack 61, any other comments?
Oh, no, I meant to mute. No.
Okay. Sunshine Christina, I'll get to you in a second, Alice. Sunshine Christina.
Did they not think Netflix was going to defend this? I mean, one, that's one. Two,
yeah.
And two, does anyone think there's a possibility that Kratz has maybe flipped? You know, we haven't seen him since he released video of Stephen with Buting in the interview room. I mean, I haven't seen him on social media. I think that's the last time we saw him. So he has this huge hype to release this book, right? The revised book, and then radio silence. Does anyone else think that's like out of character for Mr. Kratz?
Yes. But I have thank you, Sunshine Christina. That'll be the next thing that we read. Kratz had no idea what the blowback was going to be to him. He had no idea. He honestly thought the writing of this book was going to cleanse his soul. And everyone on the panel, everyone in chat, were going to say, we're not worthy, Mr. Kratz. We're not worthy, Mr. Kratz. He had no fucking idea the blowback that was going to happen when he released this book, right? And a lot of people were invested in the book, hoping that it was going to be the panacea to destroy Netflix and making a murderer and groups like us, right? But it's had the opposite effect. His book has been gasoline to a fire, right? It hasn't been the sweetheart deal that he thought it was going to be. Alice, do you have a comment?
It's Mystic Jinx in chat. She says, do you think he realised it wasn't his project when he had the meeting with AC Rookie? Or if no, then when do you think it was?
Well, I've got to be very careful what I say because there's interactions with other third parties. But yeah, things did not turn out the way he thought they were going to turn out. And later on, in Mr. Kratz's book, he does make a statement regarding convicting, right? So we'll get to that. Correct. But whenever convicting comes out, it'll be very interesting what they include, what they don't include, what angle they pursue, etc., because the potential blowback on convicting could be as devastating as Mr. Kratz's book, right? Now, you can see Netflix are not mucking around. They put the heater on Michael Grisback and said, right, you've got a third party. We want all the emails between you and your third party. What happened to attorney-client privilege, right? What the hell is this third party being involved in? So Netflix turned on the heat. And now Netflix is saying, oh, okay, I want all the documents. Michael Grisback is saying, what do you want these documents for? Because they're important, right? So now you can see Netflix has put on the heater on Michael Grisback, and the judge has had enough. And Jack 61 will back me up on this. The judge has had enough of all the bullshit, right? This has been going on for years and years and years, and it still has not been resolved. Right. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment?
What was I going to say? Well, first off, and it's the people who are filing the lawsuit, the plaintiffs, that are dragging their feet, which is why the plaintiff himself still hasn't been deposed. And we're talking, what, a year and a half in.
Yes.
What, there was something else. Do you think that convicting parted ways with Ken Kratz after the rookie interview when they saw that he just didn't have the acting ability or the intellect to self-lie on camera?
Well, put it this way. Put it this way. Would you want a loose cannon like Kratz on your show?
No. I mean, you can't sell the story. The guy can't even keep his, you know, his feathers from being ruffled. I mean, he actually used the phrase, "Are you smoking crack?" And that's like so white trash, right? I mean, but he's supposed to represent the state of Wisconsin in this ethical prosecution of a really bad man. Yeah, it didn't go well.
Correct, 100% correct. And his comment to AC Rookie regarding the coroner, that was it. That was his death knell. You come across arrogant like that. You come across not caring, having no respect, especially for a female officer, high with a lot of responsibility, and basically saying that the state coroner just simply comes in to kick the body, is the height of rudeness and disrespect. And he basically hung himself, right? So you could imagine the negative feedback when Mr. Kratz appears, if he appears on convicting. It's going to be shambolic. And the amount of vitriol heading towards that program potentially could be off the charts, especially if there's not a balance in approach, right? And my final point is, before I get back to you, Sunshine Christina, is that the producers of Making a Murderer asked everyone, do you want to appear on the program to say your piece? And they listed all the people that said, nope. So the only people they've got to blame is themselves, right? So if you're not part of the party, don't complain after. And to do a counter piece is ridiculous because they could have said their piece at the time, in situ, as it was being filmed. Sunshine Christina.
Oh, I'm curious if anyone else is thinking that. I mean, I know Kratz thinks that Colburn's going to be the sacrificial lamb, Colburn and Link, but I'm wondering if his disastrous interview didn't put him in the crosshairs for Wisconsin to say, well, if we can't pin it all on Colburn and Link, we'll cut it off at Kratz, and you know, and that'll keep it from going further up the chain, right? So I mean, an interesting theory to kind of flesh out. Did that disastrous interview actually scare him? Because I mean, no matter how inflated your ego is, when you watch that video, it's clear Kratz that he looks
something
like
was hard.
Yeah, and so I wonder if it didn't scare him or even scare Leah enough to say, hey, if you don't go cut a deal, you're going to go to prison. You know? I mean, because he looked like a prosecutor who would frame an innocent guy in that interview with Rookie. It did not do him any favors at all.
No, it did not. It did not. And you can see that he's trying to beg for forgiveness in his book. He constantly does that. He keeps on begging for forgiveness, which is truly remarkable. He was off the chain, completely off the chain. Alice, do you have a comment? I'll get to you, Jack61, in a second. Alice.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of disagree. Well, I agree a wee bit with Christina, but I think it was when he released the camera view of Butin and Stephen and
Oh yeah. Yes.
in the police station, you know, because they were asked if there was cameras in that police station.
Oh yeah.
In that specific room, and they were told no, under no circumstances is there cameras in there, because it's where people go with their lawyers. But then Kratz releases this image that is an above image from the corner, which is behind Jerry Butin. So, in my opinion, they were trying to record Stephen, even with his lawyers, in any way that they could. And when he made the mistake of putting that image out on one of his videos, when the only image you see in MAM with Jerry and Stephen in that room is when Jerry is sitting at the table and he pulls out the video camera, and it's that video camera angle of Stephen, of Jerry holding the camera. That is the only image that you get of Stephen and Jerry in that room. So for him then to release this image that's above,
Yes.
you know, I think that he has been given a gag order and told to come off of social media, come off of everything to do with social media, do not open your mouth again, or it'll not just be Colburn that's a patsy, we'll throw you under the bus and all. And that's maybe why we have not heard a peep, because we have not heard a peep from Sweaty Prize since then.
I want to. Thank you, Alice. I want to ask a question to the panel. I just want a yes or no. I want people in chat to say yes or no. Would you have any sympathy if Ken Kratz gets thrown under the bus? Alice?
No.
No. Jack 61?
No.
Sunshine Christina?
Not even a little bit.
I don't recall.
No, not at all.
Susan?
No.
Just Rhonda. Oh, I think she's got her headphones. Neverly, would you have any sympathy if Mr. Kratz falls under the bus? If they throw Mr. Kratz under the bus? I think Neverly may have gone for a second. Yeah, and everyone everyone in chat is saying no, which means now, guys, the most vulnerable person after Andrew Colburn is Mr. Kratz himself. He has dug a freaking massive hole that he cannot get out of, right? And if the shit goes down, everyone's going to be pointing at Mr. Kratz. His nightmare is about to come true. Jack 61, do you have a comment? I'll get to you in a second.
Just a brief one, and it's going back to that interview with Rookie that he had. To me, he came off as someone that was strung out, or maybe not strung out, but definitely high on something. He didn't act right. He looked clammy. He looked sweaty. He didn't look right. And it absolutely destroyed what little bit of anything that he had. It killed him. Absolutely killed him.
100% correct. Yeah, it did not look good for him whatsoever. No. Right? And could you imagine if there's more of that in convicting? It's going to be very bad.
Yeah.
So you can. Sorry, Alice.
Sorry, Dr. William in chat says no. He's like, but I'll throw him under the bus. He's like, in fact, maybe I'll be the bus driver.
Correct. And who was it? T1. Welcome, T1. T1 goes, I quote, "That better be a big fucking bus." Correct. But you see, guys, here's the stupidity of it, right? Now the most vulnerable person in the whole lot, apart from Mr. Colburn, is Mr. Kratz himself, the special prosecutor, right? Potentially he could be hung out to dry and everyone can point a finger at him, right? And so Neville and myself, we're going to go through those chapters by Farak, I believe it was, who's written a very, very critical analysis of Mr. Kratz. It looks bad. Very, very bad. Sunshine Christina.
I was just going to the analogy when, let's say you have like a leak, or you have something that is leaking. You always want to try and get ahead of it and then cut it off and divert it, right? And that's that's also how corporations and law enforcement try to manage these cases that get them next press. They want to get out ahead of it, and they want to cut it off and divert attention. And if they can get to focus on Kratz and divert our attention away from those ahead of Kratz, because Kratz is a lot of things, but he would not do anything unless he had approval to do so, in my opinion. He's not going to, he too many skeletons in the closet to risk trying to set Stephen Avery up unless he had the green light to do so. So for me personally, I'm not going to be satisfied until they're all exposed, because the only way to try and fix this justice system is out the ones who allow this to happen. And those are the ones in the government. Those are the ones up in the capital government of the states, right? And in my opinion. So it's just, I'm curious to see, because there's been discussion that convicting is actually backed financially by people who have a vested interest in staying convicted. And I'm curious to see if this is ever released, what kind of direction, how they're going to portray Kratz. Are they going to stand behind him, or are they going to try and sell well, we think he's guilty, but if he is innocent, nobody knew what Kratz was up to, what Kratz and Colburn were up to. So it's just going to be interesting to see how they try and sell a lie. Okay, because convicting is a lie, because Stephen and Brendan are innocent. How they're going to try and convince people that this is a righteous conviction.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Sunshine Christina. Alice, did you have a comment? Do we have any questions in chat?
We've got one from T1. He said, would anyone be upset if the makers of convicting get the reward for revealing any information leading to the real killer or killers?
No, but wouldn't that be ironical? Well, I mean,
Landslide 7 says, do you think there is mention of John Farak's book in Colburn case? Is that then KZ will somehow become involved because she promoted his book?
Yeah, that'll indeed be very interesting. John Farak, he doesn't mince his words. His analytical skills and his journalistic skills are second to none, right? Yeah. He delves deeply into a case. He takes no prisoners at all. And Neville can back me up on this. He's straight to the point.
Oh, yeah, I've got the book as well. Awesome. And I've read it. I've read the John Farak's book as well. And it was a complete eye-opener because he had access to some of the documents and things like that. He worked with KZ. No, exactly, but he went to her for information and things like that, and she gave him what she could, I think, without stepping over the line of client privilege sort of thing, lawyer-client privilege. And what he's put in his book was a complete eye-opener. I mean, I think I'd need to go back and read it again, because it's only been, I've only read it the once, and sometimes you read it once, but if you go back and read it again, you pick up something else, like watching Ma'am. I think I've watched it about 3 or 4 times now, and I've picked up on things that I didn't pick up on the first or the second time that I watched it. You know, so I think it's going to be the same with the book as well. But yeah, I mean, John Ferrat it's a book I would recommend for anybody to get if they can get it as well, because it is a cracking book.
It's an incredible book, and Neville and both myself are going to be doing some chapters from that book, and it'll be very illuminating, and some incredible discussions for sure will come out of it. Neville, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, guys, who would be interested in going over the book that Amber Heard allegedly is going to write?
We're not touching that. We're not touching that. We're not touching that.
Hey, you guys, it's going to be another 18 pages of BS.
We're not touching that. We're not. We will have no subscribers left, or double the amount of.
I think we're going to be doubling them. Yeah.
We won't have
Just, you know, to have some fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Neville. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment?
2 points.
2 points.
One, Alice is correct. I'm re-listening to some of the dispatch calls that for Dark Side that I had listened to probably 3 or 4 times when they first came out a year ago. And I think whenever we get new information, it unlocks things that we didn't recognize previously. So
Correct.
I encourage anyone who's listened to the dispatch calls, who's trying to put together a timeline, if you haven't already, I encourage you to re-listen to them, because it's like another level, right? Another thing, this may have already been discussed, but I missed it. Anjanette Levy's interview of KZ after the Depp Heard verdict. Does anyone find that kind of interesting, especially that she allowed Zoner to plug Johnny Depp, calling her after watching her work and making a murderer and believing in Stephen Avery's innocence? I mean, it was huge for Wisconsin.
That was like watching the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes me think that there's something stirring behind the scenes that oh yeah, you know, I really think that this year may be the year for Stephen and Brendan.
I hope that you're correct. There's definitely something working behind the scenes, right? Because it's becoming unpalatable, right? You can imagine the amount of pressure that Wisconsin's under at the moment. The world is looking. I think that pressure is going to even go higher for the wrong reasons when convicting comes out, because it's going to boil all your emotions are going to boil over all over again, right? So, you know, I've always said it from the beginning. It's going to be an Alfred plea deal. It's going to get to a point where the state of Wisconsin have to think, how much shit are we going to keep on taking from millions of people around the world, right? What happened with the West Memphis 3? They came up with a stalemate. They came up with the Alfred plea because in the end it became too hard. So here's the question. Do you do an Alfred plea for both and say, right, that's it, end of investigation? Or do you want a new trial and you get more information coming out about potential corruption that took place? Because that's what Stephen Avery's civil suit was all about. It was going to focus the attention on Kosarik, the MTSO, on Vogel. You cannot afford to do that. And then, as Sunshine Christina has eloquently shown, it's going to put the spotlight back on Gregory Allen, a rapist, free on the streets for 10 freaking years, right? That's exactly what you don't want exposed, because the journalists will go to Kosarik and say, do you realize that the person you let free and didn't pay any attention to terrorized women for the last 10 years? That's on to you, buddy. What do you think? That's why the civil suit had to be stopped right then and there, because it would have exposed all the shenanigans that took place over a long period of time, right? It would have destroyed the likes of Kacerik, Vogel, the MTSO, some officers there. This was the real deal, guys. This was the real deal. They had to stop that civil suit under any circumstances, and they did. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Considering the cold case in 1991 that, they signed the warrant on in May of 2005 when the depositions were beginning, I'm actually shocked it took them as long as it did to end the civil suit. I really am, because they had a real powder keg on their hands with that. That would have come out, that would have all rolled up to Vogel and Kasork's door. All of it.
Yep. All hell would have broken loose. And you know what? That would have been favorable for Stephen, because people in Manchester said, oh, yeah, you're pulling another one. You're pulling another one.
That's right.
So hence, you hide it and you don't expose it to the light and you keep it in the background. Oh, he's in prison. Don't worry about it. That's not the point. The point is he committed these offences under the watch of Kacerik and Vogel, right? And that really would have been devastating. It really would have. Alice, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, just a couple of things, Doc. One, I don't think Stephen will ever take an Alford plea. I really don't. That means having to admit something, and he's not going to do that. He never spent 18 years in jail for something and pleaded his innocence. For him to be put back in jail and then all of a sudden still plead his innocence and then all of a sudden take an Alford plea, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Good point.
To what Christina and that was saying, and some people in chat have been saying, I think it was Nan's Life, was saying, yes, I think there's something happening in the background, because Stephen has now been moved to a medium secure prison.
Yeah, has.
And Kathleen Zellner put that in 6 weeks ago, and Nan's Life says, I was actually looking back at the date Stephen Avery filed to the legislator, end of March, and KZ says they filed for him to be moved 6 weeks ago, which would be April. So something is happening. It's my thoughts. And yeah, I absolutely agree, because why all of a sudden now is Stephen getting moved to a medium secure prison? He's supposed to be in there for life.
Max.
So if he's in there for life and he's in there for murder, people who are in for murder go to a maximum security prison and they stay there. You know what I mean? And they'll maybe get moved to different levels in that prison depending on their behaviour or anything like that, So why is he now being moved to a medium secure prison? I honestly think she might have something up her sleeve, to be honest.
And I hope to God it's all based on forensics.
Yeah.
I hope it's all based on hard forensic science that's indisputable. And that's going to be unbelievable if that's the case. She's got to have something, right, to prove innocence. Thank you so much, Alice. Neverly, did you have a comment?
Our William has a question. He says, if he filed for a retrial, would he be freed until the trial starts?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the actual legal requirements are. I doubt it he would see freedom until he's exonerated. I highly, highly doubt it. Because remember, when he got...
And then he needs to exit in a bulletproof vehicle.
He must leave America.
Yeah.
He must leave America. Because if he is released, if both himself and Brendan are released, there'll be vigilantes after him. They'll be vigilant. They will not accept that he's innocent, right? That they'll take him down. They'll take him out. They will. I've seen it before. They will take him out. He needs to leave him. He can come to my house. He can come to my house. I'm telling you right now, he has to leave the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know legally whether he's permitted, but he cannot stay in Wisconsin.
No.
Sunshine Christina.
He at least needs to leave Wisconsin. He had talked before about going to Michigan. And I'm sure Mark Hodnott would also extend him, a place to stay.
Correct.
I
Correct.
say to take a call real quick, but if we're discussing the Alford plea, I don't know if Jax mentioned it, but Kathleen Zellner's client in Tennessee, Adam Brazel, I think is that his name, Jax? He took an Alford plea.
Yeah, that is his name.
Yeah, and also West Memphis 3,
yes.
They took for plea. But what that allows, it allows innocent people who are living in a cage to have freedom. But it does not stop the attorneys from continuing to get the evidence to get them exonerated fully.
Correct.
And I think that for the wrongfully convicted, people will talk more once you're out on the street because they believe that there is a chance that the corrupt ones will be held accountable. While you're they're scared, right? Because they know you're innocent and they know how easily they stole your freedom, and they don't want that to happen to them. I mean, It's self-preservation, right? And you can't really blame them, especially in these small towns. I mean, these people wield unbelievable power over these people's lives, and it's almost like they rule like a tyranny system. It's fear of the unknown, and it's fear of it's sincerely self-preservation, because they'll steal your life. They'll steal your children's lives. They'll steal your parents' lives. And my sincerest hope is that Stephen Avery gets out before his father passes away. He has to plea. If the man has to say he's guilty just to get out so he can spend time with his daddy, I'm all right with it because I know he's innocent.
At the end of the day, I understand Stephen's position. I understand Brendan's position. Brendan never took a plea deal. If Brendan took a plea deal, he would have been released by now. But the problem is that society will say, see, you did rape, murder, mutilate, cremate Teresa Halbach, and you're a registered sex offender for life, right? That's not freedom. You might as well die. That's not freedom. If you haven't committed the crime, you shouldn't do the time. And furthermore, if you haven't committed the crime, you shouldn't admit to something. That's the weakness of the American judicial system, right? Where you can do an Alford plea. I listened to the interviews done by the West Memphis 3. They all said, I plead guilty, but I didn't do it. But I have to do it because my friend would have gone to the electric chair. They would have killed him. So that's why they did the plea. That's why they did the plea deal, because Damien Eccles would have been killed.
He was coming up, he was within probably 2 years of getting his warrant signed to be executed.
Correct.
Statistic today. We have more money to keep people in prison than we do to feed the homeless or the children going to bed hungry every night in America. So we allot more money to keep people incarcerated than we do to feed the hungry in America. That's pretty sad.
That's your system. I'm sorry, but it blows my mind. And but Neverly, do you have a comment?
I don't think that anybody would blame Stephen if he took an Alfred plea. Because we're all on the outside, and yes, we all put in this work, but it's his life. and he has to decide for himself what's best. He has become this warrior for wrongful incarceration because he was one of the, I don't know how many other people have been incarcerated wrongfully twice, not once. That happened a lot, but he's pretty much unique.
I think he almost is unique.
Yes. So he has become this warrior because life has, played a cruel joke on him to be in this position. But as I said, I don't think that people would judge him one bit if he said, I have had enough, because he has spent more than half of his life in prison by now for nothing. For nothing. And just to go a little bit back, when Casey tweeted that Stephen Hill was moved in the medium security prison, JD from the chat said, I hate to think it, but I hope he's safe in a medium security prison. And I am thinking just out loud over here, I don't know anything about that. But there's enough spotlight on one Stephen Avery that I don't think they would go that far. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know how about anybody else is thinking.
Probably not in medium, but in max, it's dangerous. Kathleen Zellner said, you could be killed any day. It's as simple as that. You could be murdered any day. A lot of those prisoners are in there for murder, multiple murders, and killing somebody else in jail. That's not an issue for them, right? So him going to medium, I think, is a step in the right direction. And I agree with everyone in chat. Wouldn't it be great if he gets exonerated the proper way rather than doing an Alfred plea, right? So I think Kathleen Zellner...
He offered that first. He can't just say, I'll take it,
Correct. And that if he gets offered an Alfred plea, it'll divide America. It will divide America. They'll be burning the streets. They'll be rejoicing and burning the streets at the same time, right?
But you're right. What one of those three young men who were in prison for the West Memphis 3, I think his name was Jason something. And he said, yes, not Miss Kelly, the other one. It was Damien, Jason, and Miss Kelly. So Jason, he said that the saddest and the craziest thing is that when they proclaimed their innocence, they put them in prison for life. And now they have to, say, we did it, and they let him go. Yeah.
To be really correct.
That's
no logic.
That sums up the system right now. It's a lot. I said that sums up the American justice system.
Illogical.
It is.
Correct. 100% correct. Thank you, Sunshine Christina. Alice, do you have a quick comment? What time is it where you are?
So 20 to 1 in the morning. Where I am. So it's actually Kelly and chat. Hi, Kelly.
Oh, welcome, Kelly.
She says, question, isn't it the state that has to offer an alpha plea? In my opinion, and going off what we've seen they did to be, I don't think they would ever give him the chance of freedom. They will fight till the death.
Yep.
Till their last dime. To the last dime.
I agree. And Mr. Kratz continuously says that Stephen is going to be in prison till he dies. That's the message. The constant message given by Mr. Kratz. He wants to see Stephen die in prison. So I don't think the state of Wisconsin is all of a sudden going to be generous and offer him an Alfred plea. That was my sort of best outcome at this stage.
Yeah,
but, yes, sorry, Alex.
Sorry, Doc. I was just going to say, Doc, I mean, with the Alfred plea, I don't think that he would do that because you lose certain rights as well when you're in when you take the Alfred plea. Damien Eccles and that were just up at court the other day because they wanted to test the laces that the boys were tied up with that new MVAC machine.
Right.
And because they took the Alford plea, they were denied. But if he was maybe still a prisoner, because it's still his human right to be able to get these tests and that to prove his innocence, you know, it might have been a different story. So that's why I can't see Stephen taking an Alford plea to just get out, because as you say, he has to admit the wrongdoing, i.e. killing Teresa, but then he's also going to be on the sex offenders register for the rest of his life, you know. And the young boy that Kathleen who took the plea before, he's just been exonerated. You know, I've seen that Mystic Jinx had put it in chat that he's been completely exonerated now, that boy, Adam, I think his name was. But it's been a while since he took his Alford plea to now, to when he's actually been completely exonerated. You know? Yeah, for us and looking at it, it's kind of an easier way for Stephen to maybe get out, because he's been in jail for so long. You know, we want him to be with Pa Avery and everything like that. Of course we want that for him, but we don't want him, me personally, I don't want him taking that plea to lose some of his rights to be able to get any more evidence tested or put up in front of a judge or anything like that. And if he takes that Alford plea, he kind of loses that ability in a way, which means he's going to have to fight even more and get decent enough lawyers, and they cost money. And if he can't sue the state to get that money, then how is he going to pay for these lawyers and everything like that to be able to get that done, you know? So in my opinion, I really hope he doesn't think about taking a plea, because he'll lose. I don't know if his human rights are the right word to look for, you know what I mean? But if you know what I mean, Doc, he loses a certain amount of rights because he's took that Alford plea, you know?
He won't do it. He won't do it. He said, I remember one of the interviews in Making a Murderer, he goes, why should I plead guilty to something I didn't do? That was with the sexual assault of Penny Bernstein, right? Because remember, every time the parole board came up, they said to him, just admit it and we'll get you released. He goes, nope. So he stayed in prison for 18 years, right? Because he believes in a principle. But Paul Stephen has been institutionalized. He spent more time in prison than outside the prison. Yeah. But to him, his way of thinking is, oh, well, a couple of more years and I'll prove my innocence. That's what he wants, to prove his innocence. Sunshine Christina, do you have thank you, Alice. Sunshine Christina, do you have a quick comment?
I think that Stephen's going to do whatever Zellner tells him to do. So if she thinks an Alford plea will actually get him exonerated in the long run, I think he would take it. Two ways Wisconsin will not fight this and let them out. One is if the defendant's attorneys have dirt showing that it is a clear wrongful conviction and that people in Madison were in the know of it because they want to contain the fallout. And two, if they can figure out who actually is responsible for Teresa's disappearance and have evidence that shows it wasn't Stephen or Brendan. AC Rookie did a really interesting tweet and Reddit post showing that when Andrew Colburn claims he was talking to Avery at the Avery salvage yard on November 3rd, Stephen was actually at Menards. So it's like every time you try and corroborate, or who says it means Susan corroborate or whatever.
Corroborate.
Yes, every time we try and corroborate what law enforcement claims they've done in this investigation, the evidence actually shows they did something else, right? So it's almost as if this entire investigation was a script and not at all what was actually going down. I would be surprised if anything they claim they did, they actually did, besides arrest Stephen, honestly.
Correct. And that now brings
I feel the same way.
Yes. Sorry, Neville, you have any additional comments?
No, I was just going to agree with Christina that that's like a cookie cutter, cutter. They had a playbook of how to set somebody up, and that they were that's why nothing matches. That's why nothing can be corroborated. And yeah.
Well, this, if you have a look at my little presentation I did on the DNA methylation analysis by that research team, that now puts the spotlight squarely on law enforcement, right? Because Stephen Avery bled in his sink. So was Andrew Colburn on the property at the same time that Stephen Avery was at Menards? Whoa. And who did we say called in the number plates to the RAV4 on November the 3rd? Colburn. And if Colburn just happened to be around, there you go, because Kelly's blood demonstration showed that if you're going to use fresh blood, you have to use it almost immediately because it congeals, right? So you got to get the blood and then use it to seed the RAV and plant it in the RAV, right? So now it brings into the spotlight, well, jeepers, was fresh blood used in order to frame Stephen Avery? Because the analysis done by the research team showed that the blood was not from the purple top tube. It was not from the 1996 blood vial. This is item A9, right? Item A9 was not a swab. It was a cutting from the seat, from the passenger seat, right? So Culhane can't just simply swap that with another piece, because I've had a look at the photographs. There's only 2 cuttings on the seats. That I can't see any additional ones, which tends to suggest that the blood on item A9 is fresh blood. But the problem is, when the research team did the methylation studies, it was from an older individual 9.4 years older than Stephen's biological age in 2005. So was it an error? Right? So you've got to take item A9 and redo a PCR extraction and prove that it actually came from Stephen Avery. That's intriguing. Sunshine.
Or, so instead of him being 35, they're saying that it's from a 45-year-old man, roughly. Is that right?
When I've got the actual values here. The DNA methylation age of A9 was 52.8 years. Stephen A in 2005 was 43.4. So,
but in 2014-15, when Making a Murderer was coming out, he would have been the appropriate age. It would be interesting to see if they took his blood right around that time.
Well, we're dealing with the blood on A9. So
I know, but all they would have to do, and let's face it, if they could figure out how to do it, they do it. All right, I think we can all agree that they're going to do whatever they can to try and sell this at this point. So all they would have to do is get Stephen's blood and put it on the seat, right? And they probably didn't think
fabric
age. All they're worried about is covering their tracks. So, yeah, I got to make a records request. Yeah.
Correct. Awesome. Neville, do you have a comment?
On A9. First of all, the mere fact that they concluded that it was almost 10 years, 9.4, right? You said?
9.4. Correct.
Yeah.
9.4.
Older than Stephen's chronological age at the time, or calendar age at the time.
Correct.
Is makes me want to conclude that it's not Stephen's, because prior, when they took his in 1985, the purple, and 96, it was 96. 2 or 3 years around his age at the time. That's so correct. What would cause such a decay of DNA, you know what I mean? that he would show 10. It was him. Yeah. So that's one point. And the second point, if the defense is asking for additional tests, that tells you that obviously they think that their client is innocent, right? So why wouldn't they want to confirm that number one, that's their client's blood on that sample? Because she doesn't need more cutout samples from the RAV. All she needs is, Stephen's blood. Yeah, that's all.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
you said that scientists trust each other, which is a noble thing because they're noble, profession and whatever. But we are talking about a corrupted state through and through. So, a huge case, I don't know. Anyway, they didn't ask me. That's why.
Yep. Well, put it this way. 1 second, Sunshine Christina. What they've got to do is re-extract genomic DNA from A9 and prove that it's Stephen Avery's profile. So forget what Cherie Cohane did.
Yeah.
Then do another DNA methylation, if possible, to confirm whether it's within the range. Because 9.4 years is intriguing, but it may not be out of the realms experimentally, right? But when they tested the 1996 blood vial and the 2016 blood of Stephen Avery, the error range was much, much more tighter, right? But for the A9, the error range was much bigger, right? So the question is A9 from Stephen Avery? According to Cherie Cohane, it is. But I want to see independent testing, right? Mm-hmm. So that DNA methylation, what it did is effectively ruled out the blood vial, the 1996 blood vial. A9 is not from the blood vial. Very, very interesting indeed.
And I'm sure that I'm going to have other supporters that that's the fruit from the poisoner tree, if it came from Cohane.
Correct. But the investigators, they weren't interested in whose sample it was. They were interested in the age. And the question they asked was it from the purple top or was it from someone closer to 2005 in age? And the answer is, it's not from the purple top. That puts Stephen squarely in the spotlight now, but it also puts Cohane in the spotlight as well. Sunshine Christina.
So hypothetical. If Zoner gets the RAF and tests the blood inside of the RAF, that should coincide methylation-wise with
should be the same.
That's right. So
it will be the same.
Hypothetically, if she gets the RAV blood and this RAV blood that Cohane has typed to Stephen Avery doesn't coincide methylation-wise with A9, then
big trouble.
Johnson's in trouble.
Big trouble.
Yeah.
Big trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a pity. It's a pity that what the investigators didn't test was actually the blood from Teresa Hallbach in the RAV, because it would have been a perfect internal control, right? Because we know that Teresa Hallbach was 25 years old at the time of her murder. So the DNA methylation result would have been very interesting to see what answer they got back. All right.
Yeah, I would like to see the original request to get what they wanted to get and what they were allowed to get. That would be interesting.
Correct. All right, now guys, we've got to move on because I want to finish the podcast. Alice, did you have a quick comment? Alice?
No, sorry, Dara, I didn't realise I was unmuted.
No hassles. All right, guys, let's go to the final section of his book, well, nearly the final section of his book. And it's part 10 of chapter 15, entitled Final Thoughts. This is Mr. Kratz. I quote, "I must admit to being disappointed with the book writing experience. I had hoped the release of my book would change the mind of the public, setting the record straight, fact by fact, and showing how a handful of lawyers and film producers were able to effectively rewrite Wisconsin history by packaging and selling a false narrative of this very complex and emotionally charged criminal case. That hasn't happened. So Mr. Kratz's book has been a dud, right? It didn't help him at all. So here's the question to the panel, and that is, why did Mr. Kratz's book fail to change the mind of the public? And what are your top 3 reasons? And colourful language is permissible. So why did Mr. Kratz's book fail? How come he couldn't convince the public on what he was trying to do? Who would like to answer first? Rhonda, just Rhonda.
Because he was full of shit, and most people knew that. You know, the greater part of the society or the public knew that already.
Very, very interesting. So his book clearly didn't change the mind of the public. Okay, very important. Jack 61, do you have a comment? Thank you, just Rhonda.
I think from the beginning to the end, his book did not come off credible. Started off with the forward from Nancy Disgrace, and she made a number of glaring errors in it. There were also a number of factual errors throughout his book, and he tried to get away with it, like he always does. So, his goal was to try to trash Making a Murderer, and that was the wrong goal. If he was actually going to try to be credible and prove something, and in my opinion, he failed so badly because his narcissistic personality carried through into that book so deep.
I'm correct. He couldn't help himself.
He couldn't. It was awful. And so I think really, I don't know about top 3, but definitely the 2 biggest things, he wasn't credible, and there was just a huge amount of factual errors in it.
Correct. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jack 61. Susan, Sugar, tell us, why did your book fail? Why did your book fail?
Oh my God, it was just so poorly written. Also, that any credibility just went out the window. It's just a horrible piece of writing, full of bullshit. And like Jack said, his ego coming through in that is just so glaring, and he just has no credibility. He did nothing to help himself with that book.
He didn't help to endear himself, did he?
No.
I 100% agree with you. Do we have any comment? Neville, why did Mr. Kratz's book fail to change the public's mind?
Because it was utterly insincere, disingenuous, and it was offensive to any logical and honest mind who is familiar with the cases, who has been following Stephen's saga from 1985 on. It was really offensive, and it was insulting, because Kratz has not taken any accountability, any responsibility for anything. He just basically was throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something will stick. And then he elaborated more, and the story became bigger and bigger and bigger. And just like somebody we know who has recently lost a defamation case, it was just nothing but words and this, voodoo magic, whatnot. And it has nothing to do with the reality, because he had an answer for everything.
Yes.
So he constructed such perfection, and of course, he overestimated his intelligence and underestimated everybody else's. And people don't like that. And honestly, it doesn't have anything to do with the truth.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Neverly. Alice, why did Mr. Kratz's book fail to change the mind of the public?
Because it's all bollocks, and more bollocks.
I knew you were going to say that. Correct.
Because I mean, you can see, Doc, that he's just tried to cover his own ass. No, I'll tell you what the facts were in Making a Murderer. You know, I'm the lawyer. I'm the one that prosecuted this case, so I'm the one that should know better. You know,
Correct.
I should facts that up and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, because of the lies and because he attacked KZ and that as well, you know, somebody else in his profession. And I mean, I know lawyers do that, but it's the way he went about it, and as other panel members have said, he doesn't take any responsibility. You know, the only time he took responsibility was for the sexting that he did, and that was only because he got caught.
He got caught. Yeah, he wanted to keep it undercover, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't too impressed that it came out during MAM. And that he said that helped destroy his reputation because he tried to deep six it and hope that no one would ask him about it. But it got uncovered. And he's forever regretful for that. Forever regretful. Thank you so much, Alice. Does anybody... Neverly, do you have a comment?
Said he was forever regretful for what?
That his sexting scandal came out. He wanted to it and hoped to God that no one would talk about it, and it came out and making him murderer. And he was mega pissed.
He was pissed, regretful, and sorry that he got caught, basically. Not what he was doing, but he got caught. No. Huge difference. And it's apparent in his book, again.
Correct. All right, guys. Well, look, I know. Let's do the next question, all right? Because it actually follows on beautifully. And I quote, gossip about my past had finally softened to a whisper. And I was being assigned more serious and legal complex defense cases. And I'd come all the way back. But then, Making a Murderer was released in December 2015, and it felt like a sucker punch to my gut. No new clients hired me after Making a Murderer. Convinced the public that I was an unscrupulous lawyer. Zero. One day, I was trying and winning jury cases, and then poof, it was all gone. Right? And here's the question. Yeah, here's the question. When is Mr. Kratz going to stop blaming Making a Murderer for his own downfall? Who would like to... Neverly, you're allowed to use colourful language if you want to, Neverly.
Never,
oh, yeah?
never. He will never stop blaming anything or anybody else.
No.
He thrives on that. That's his supply. He's a narcissist, remember? They need a supply. They're like vampires of the soul. So that's why they like the spotlight, whether positive or negative, it doesn't matter to them because they draw this energy from all of that. They need something to fight. They're in constant conflict with the world. You know what I mean? So this is why he's loving it. And even if MAM 3 comes out, oh my goodness, there you go. He's going to be living from that forever. For the wrong reasons. Yeah.
That's truly bizarre.
Bizarre.
if you've ever met a narcissist, you now understand their behavior. So even bad attention is good for them because it's attention.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they can live on that forever.
Correct. Does anybody else have any comments? Jack 61.
I agree 100% with what Nerly just said.
Yep, unbelievable. Sugar, do you have a comment? When's he going to stop blaming Ma'am?
Never. He'll never stop blaming Ma'am or anything that goes wrong on his life. He'll blame somewhere else. But why he would think that he could write a book after he has been so disgraced and exposed on making a murderer for what he is, how could he possibly think that he could write a successful book and change minds? I mean, that's the narcissist in him. It's just, ridiculous.
Because we all got it wrong. So he wanted to educate us and explain more, right?
Right. And we're going to believe him. Really. We're going to believe this man, that has done despicable things in his life. Sorry,
pick me. Mr. Jinx said in the chat, she said, how about not only writing that book, but trying to get Avery to help him write it?
Well, this truly is remarkable. Now, remember, there was this interaction between Mr. Kratz and Stephen Avery where he said, I know more about the case because I'm the prosecuting DA. He wanted a full confession from Stephen Avery so he could write a book and gloat about it and say, look, I got a confession from Stephen. I told you he was guilty, so he could profit from that. That goes to show how demented Mr. Kratz was.
A monster.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Kratz was a successful prosecuting attorney for Stephen and Brendan. Leave it at that. Walk away. But he couldn't because he's like a moth to a flame, and now he got burnt. And now he's regretting it, and he writes a book, and he said, my book writing experience has failed, right? I mean, I remember looking at the reviews on Amazon. I won't repeat what a reviewer said, but I'm telling you now, I don't think anyone on the planet has reviewed his book like the Foul Play team has. We have spent a year taking apart his book. No one's done that. So, we know off first hand how bad that book is. No one's done that. Neverly, do you have another comment?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else? Rhonda, did you have a comment about Mr. Kratz? No. Susan, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll just say that I think the most interesting thing about his book is all of the embedded confessions in it.
Yes.
And they're so obvious. Yeah.
Correct. That's a very, very good point. That's certainly something that I have learned, and we all have. People in chat have learned as well. There's many embedded confessions in that book. Just Rhonda, do you have a comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was talking and didn't realize I had muted. But I was just going to say way back in the beginning of this question, just by virtue of his narcissism, and I know everybody else has already said that too, but really, for me, it's what it comes down to. It's his narcissism. Narcissism in and of itself does not allow for the individual with that diagnosis to admit to anything that even resembles wrongdoing at all.
No, so. You're 100% correct. And he gaslights everybody. It's everybody else's fault except him.
Right, exactly.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's keep on going. I'm going to try and finish. The next quote is as follows. I don't want sympathy, certainly not from any of the thousands of internet trolls. That's you and I, internet trolls who set this result into motion. But I never did anything in the Avery or Dassey cases that was dishonest or unethical. I am going to fucking bust my iPad. I really am. I can't handle this bullshit. I'll start again. I don't want sympathy. Certainly not from any of the thousands of internet trolls who set this result into motion. But I never did anything in the Avery or Dassey cases that was dishonest or unethical, or that would require me to become and remain unemployable 14 years later. If I made a mistake, the March 2nd, 2006 press conference comes to mind. I have owned up to it. That's who I am. And as the kids say, that's how I roll. Fuck me.
He's genetic garbage. I'm sorry to be this blunt, but he is genetic garbage. If he offended somebody, if I don't ask for sympathy, who do you think you are? My goodness, man. He's like, somebody needs to hit him over the head to get back to reality. It's like, whoo, get down back on,
Wait, I haven't asked the question.
My
yet.
bad.
That's all right. The question is this: why does Mr. Kratz act first, then think about the consequences later? Because that passage summed up Mr. Kratz. That's it. It's everybody else's fault. He's done nothing wrong. But so what if I did the press conference? So what if I fucked up the lives of Stephen and Brendan? That's how he said, that's how I roll. Jack 61.
I'm sitting here vibrating. Number one, I feel like my brain just got waterboarded while you're reading that passage. But there is, he's like a lot of these other narcissists we see in the world, because he's dug himself so deep in this hole. The only thing he can see to do to even think about correcting it is to keep digging, not say, "Hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm going to make amends." He had that opportunity years ago. That's not what he did at all.
Right.
It's just gotten worse since. I mean, just look at the sexting scandal when Ryan Foley cornered him. Man, I thought he was going to hit him because he was screwed, and he knew he was screwed.
And remember his voice. Remember Kratz's voice. Oh my God!
Yep.
Creepy.
And he also, he tried to blame. Of course, during that conversation, he says, "Well, it's all political." Blah blah blah. But he also, if you remember the emails with that Kevin Potter from the DOJ, he tried to blame them and say, "Oh, you guys leaked it." No, he didn't.
Correct.
Someone made a request, and we didn't have any reason not to honor that FOIA request. So
Correct.
yeah, there's just no bottom for him, Doc. There's just not.
Correct.
I guess what I'm saying is that things that would embarrass the shit out of all of us 100 times over, that doesn't exist in his mind. It's just not there. I just don't know how someone. My brain doesn't work that way. I know everyone else here doesn't work that way either. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy. And I think that's part of what polarizes this case so badly is these actions of, he was clearly given support in the green light, as others have talked about, and we talked about tonight, from the state. There's no doubt about it. He was supported. But he was the head, and he took that on. willingly. I don't think he was blackmailed into taking this job as lead prosecutor. So that speaks to another part of his personality. I'll just leave it at that.
Correct. Just, I think that passage summed up Mr. Kratz. It just so shocking. Neverly, do you have a quick comment? I'll get to you in a sec, Sunshine Christina. Neverly.
I have a quick question. Do you think, everybody, do you guys think that he's not aware of his being this delusional, offensive, unrealistic, and just plain crass and brass? Or do you think he does this on purpose? I personally think that he does this on purpose, that he's aware of what he's doing. But that's his ammo. Shock and awe.
I think he's totally aware, Neverly. I think he's totally aware.
I think so too.
I do too. And I think he's followed this podcast.
Yes.
More than likely.
I'm sure he's listening in. There's no question. He's
hello.
he's definitely. I'm sure he's definitely listening in. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment?
I think he is too. I think it feeds his wounded ego to know that he's still being talked about. Right? It gives him a sense of fame and glory. You mentioned his tone when Ryan Foley outed him.
Oh my God!
It was almost as if he was a royal court talking to a lowly attendee. There are things you do not know that you have no idea about, and you only think you've broken a story. Like it was beneath him to even have to talk to that he, and that says a lot about the mentality of these people in positions of power in Wisconsin. And you can hear it. I heard it in John F. Meyer in the recently released Colburn the court meeting they had. What's it called? I'm having a brain fart. When they had the court case or the court meeting, the court date prior to the last one.
Or the hearing. Oral arguments.
Thank you. When John F. Meyer was trying to pontificate to the judge, like how dare they act like they have a right to do anything. But if you actually sit down and to the words that man said, he said nothing of substance, right? He just kind of ran around in circles, just blowing hot air. These guys really think that anyone questioning anything that they do is like completely out of order. They really
untouchable.
Yeah, they really have this mindset that they are way above us on the scale. And in a way, that's kind of concerning, because when you're caught, right? And these guys really think that nothing's going to happen to them. And that should be concerning to anyone who wants an honest and ethical criminal justice system. That's they're not
correct. That's correct. 100% correct. And Neverly and myself, probably in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be looking at prosecutorial misconduct by Mr. Kratz. We're not letting him off the hook, right?
No.
And this law professor, he rips him a new one, right? And I think this goes back to the fact that these prosecutors, DAs, et cetera, have got immunity, right? They can throw out the shit and they know they're going to be protected. And this is a big problem in the system because there's no safety net. There's no safety net. These guys can sprout off as much bullshit as they want with no consequences, with little or no consequences, right? So give an example. The only regret Mr. Kratz has is that March 2nd press conference. But he goes, oh, well, I did it. That's how I roll. Right?
Yeah.
So he did all this misconduct and goes, oh, well, so be it. Whereas if he actually got punished for his misgivings, he would have thought twice. If the judge threw him off the case, he would have learnt his lesson, right? But the mere fact that he was still able to prosecute Stephen and Brendan and be essentially off the hook goes to show what a clusterfuck it really was, right? You can do whatever you want that's wrong and still get away with it and pay no consequences. Then,
Stephen Avery.
correct. Then he asked justification and forgiveness by writing a book. And quite, that's incredibly offensive.
You
right?
know, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, Susan, was that you?
Yeah, I think what he was saying when he said that's how I roll, I think he was saying that I admit that the March 2nd conference, that's what I regret. I admit that was, I shouldn't have done that. But that's how I roll because I'm honest. So I admit to that.
Correct. No, I'm sorry, but it really blows my mind on how Mr. Kratz operates. But imagine having a conversation with him, a one-to-one conversation. You'll need drugs after talking to him.
He's married to him.
Or being married to him, a very bizarre individual indeed. It's really off the charts.
Maybe we should ask his wife number 1, wife number 2, wife number 3, or wife number 4.
Mm-hmm. 4 of them.
Correct. 100% correct. Thank you. Alice, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, just with people saying we think Kratz is watching, just hiya Kratz, you're a ball bag. If you don't know what it is, Google it.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that he definitely follows foul play and the analysis of his book. And it's probably just stroking his ego. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about him, but not in a very positive light, I must admit. Sunshine Christina, do you have a comment? Thank you very much, Alice.
I have a question for the panel and the people in chat. If Stephen and Brendan's cases are overturned, do we think that there is enough evidence of intentional malfeasance, intentional misconduct on the behalf of law enforcement and prosecutors that it could steamroll into getting the absolute and qualified immunity somehow rewritten or removed? Do you think this case has that power to change?
Yes. Will it happen? No.
Yeah.
No.
Because you put it this way. If this case, which is high profile, changes you even know Mr. Kratz saying, making a murderer, they rewrote Wisconsin history. Could you imagine if they changed the laws? There'll be nobody working in Wisconsin. They'll all move out because they don't have the protection anymore. No. I think it's a good idea if they do. Will it happen? No. It's a safety net, right? Otherwise, all the DAs will be in prison. They'll be in prison.
Right. And do you think Kratz knew that season 2 of MAM was coming out when he was writing this book? Or do you think that he really thought it was going to be a 1 season and done?
I think he thought it was 1 season.
Yeah.
He did the revision.
He did a book too because he goes, oh shit. Kathleen Zellner came out with all her experts, so he had to add all these additional chapters to rebut what Kathleen Zellner found, right? And that's what chapter 15 is all about.
I think season 2 really threw them for a loop. I don't think anyone anticipated them having enough to do another entire series, much less, or an episode, much less an entire series of even more evidence of police and prosecutorial misconduct.
Right.
Then
Right.
if you add to that all of the stuff that we, the public, has found since season 2 aired, and all the stuff the attorneys have found, I mean, there's enough for season 3.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Easy. And it's sort of like Kathleen Zellner, with season 3, you can spend a lot of time looking at the judges and their responses and the analysis of all the filings done by Kathleen Zellner and the American judicial system and looking at the forensic evidence. There's a huge amount there, right? For sure. And people will be very, very interested in it. Neville, do you have a quick comment? Okay. All right, guys. Well, let's do almost the final statement by Mr. Kratz. And that is as follows. I quote, the state of Wisconsin obtained convictions against both Avery and Dassey, not because we were the gatekeepers of some crooked justice system, or were willing to look the other way when some wild-eyed county employees sought revenge against a local junk dealer. It was because the evidence required guilty verdicts, evidence that even this many years later have been scrutinized and attacked on every possible side by professional and amateur zealots alike, has held up just fine. Thank you very much. So here's the question. That's almost as good as the dogs sniffing butts, right, Jack 61? I never laughed so hard on that one. What do dogs do? Sniffing butts.
That's right.
Well, here's a question to the panel, right? If the evidence against Stephen Avery was so ironclad, why doesn't the state hand over all the evidence to Kathleen Zellner? What has the state got to hide? And here's the second point. How did Brendan Dassey get sent to prison with just his words? Because Mr. Kratz talks about all this evidence. Neville.
I said the objection compound. Those are two questions.
So I know questions. You're trying to get smart now.
Yes.
So who would like to answer that question? If the evidence is so ironclad, why doesn't the state hand over everything to Kathleen Zellner and her experts? Who would like to answer that one? Neville.
I think if it's so ironclad that they don't have to prove anything because their evidence is so ironclad that 12 citizens, peers, found him guilty beyond reasonable doubt. So why would they go out of their way? They're, they don't want to waste time, and they just want to go out there and be heroes and get more innocent people in prison, in Wisconsin. No, that's my little snarky comment. Yeah, and I forgot the second part. Sorry.
About Brendan Dassey, where there was no forensic evidence, yet he's sitting in prison for life. He's complete, and
even the Judge Duffin let him go home, correct. But no, correct. Schimmel. Oh my goodness! Correct. So yeah,
that's 100% correct. Thank you, Neville. Susan, do you have a comment?
Yeah, and I'll just say, if their evidence is so ironclad, why did they reopen the case in 2017?
Correct, because of Kathleen Zellner.
Right.
You've got queso 2, right? What the hell is queso 2 all about if Stephen and Brenda are in prison? Because they know that there's problems. They know that there's issues. So they're trying to dot the I's and cross the T's and hope to God that no one finds out, right?
Of course they know. Of course. Yeah.
They know that there's something going on that's not right. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Yeah, they know that their case is not strong. Kratz is, again, he is completely ignoring what was kept from the jury. And that's a mountain of stuff that we've, so many of us have brought to the table and shown to the public. The jury should have had, they weren't given it. They couldn't make an informed decision. And Kratz and the prosecution kept that away from them intentionally. And so, for him to say that in his book like that, for the average reader, they're going to be like, yeah, man, they had those guys dead to rights. No, they really didn't. They really didn't.
Correct. And Jack, sorry, go on. I was going to say, Angie Dickinson says, why did they give away the cremains to the Holbach family? Right? Well, so, your evidence is ironclad. Hold on to it. Don't give it away. Right? And I'm telling you right now, I have a feeling there's no RAV4. It's gone.
What they're going to give away? If they're going to give away somebody's cremains, they're not going to give a shit about a car.
None whatsoever. None. Right? So, they haven't even given her the blinker light. Right? No. I wonder why. It's completely crazy. All right. So does anyone have any additional comments? All right, Jack 61, can you please show the final slides? I'm happy we're going to finish.
Yep, let me get my camera off and I'll get it pulled up. Yep.
No hassles. So Mr. Kratz wrote chapter 16, and honestly, it's not worth our time to spend a lot of time on it. So I like to basically finish. Chapter 16 is entitled The Last Word, right? Now, the reason why I'm not going to spend too much time on chapter 16 is that it basically goes over all the material that we've already covered. Again, he spews it out. So he basically writes down all the points that we've covered so far. So this is the front cover of Mr. Kratz's book, right? Entitled The Case Against Stephen Avery and What Making a Murderer Gets Wrong, right? And you could tell straight away. You look at that cover, Stephen Avery looks like Hannibal Lecter. He looks like the Monopoly man, right? Got a jail card. He's got his hands all covered up. He looks awful. Chains around him. And he puts that on the front cover. Right? Be under no illusion. He believes in the absolute guilt of Stephen Avery, and he's trying to make him look like a monster. That's his intentions from the start. And I know that Susan has done a really good job comparing edition 1 with edition 2, and I promise I will do that analysis and we'll have a look at it on a podcast, I promise, to see what he included in his new edition. Jack 61, can we have the next slide, please?
It's not only what he included, but it's also what he deleted.
He left out. Correct. Yeah. 100% correct. And we'll do a side-by-side comparison. So I just want to read this out. This is under the last word. This is about the Avery case. And I'll read it. Enter Kathleen Zellner, stage left. The overconfident exoneration specialist from Chicago with questionable ethics has been asked several times by Stephen Avery, mostly through his agent and fiance turned legal advocate, Sandra Greenman, to represent him during appeal. The hold-up in coming to Avery's rescue, according to Attorney Zellner herself, was that there were too many pieces of evidence that seemed to implicate Stephen Avery, and it didn't appear she would be successful. The real reason, of course, was that it would take Making a Murderer and its 19 plus million viewers in the show's first 30 days to lure Kathleen Zellner to this case. In her own words, like a moth to a flame. So one can see that Mr. Kratz has no respect at all for Kathleen Zellner. And don't forget, guys, Kathleen Zellner has done this and paid for it herself. She spent over $500,000 trying to assist Stephen, right? And quite clearly here, Mr. Kratz, the way he criticizes Kathleen Zellner is shocking, right? Now, don't forget, as a prosecuting DA, you want to put people in prison. Whereas someone like Kathleen Zellner, if you've been wrongfully accused, her aim is to take you out of prison. And this shows no respect for someone who tries to get people out of prison that shouldn't be there. Susan, do you have a comment?
That is a complete lie. That Kathleen looked at his case before Making a Murder and came to the conclusion that there was too much evidence against him. That's what you just read, is it not?
That's what he said. That's 100% correct.
I do not believe that's true.
Yep.
I don't think she even considered the case until she watched Man.
That's right. And don't forget, Sandy Greenman had written to her for many, many years. And yes. Kathleen Zellner is an extremely busy person. She's involved in many wrongful conviction cases, right?
Yes.
And so she eventually did take up Stephen Avery's case, and that rattled the cages of people like Mr. Kratz, right? That really worried.
Liar. He's such a liar.
Yep, he sure is. All right. Now, can we have the next slide, please, Jack 61?
It's already up, Doc. The one with that.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. I was scared that my internet was going to drop out when it rains. Oh, my God. So here's the next passage that Mr. Kratz wrote about the Dassey case. Here's a part of it, and I quote, "In the original printing of this book, Stephen Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, convicted for helping rape, kill, and mutilate the body of Teresa Halbach, had found himself the recipient of good news. As Federal District Magistrate Judge William Duffin opined that Dassey's interrogation should be thrown out and either be retried or released. There was a third option for the state, of course, and they chose that option and to appeal Duffin's decision to the Federal Court of Appeals. The 7th Circuit Federal Court of Appeals convenes in Chicago. A 3-judge panel was selected to hear the original Dassey appeal, with oral arguments scheduled in February 2017. But listen what he says. "I felt an obligation to attend that hearing, showing support for the Halbach family, for the case convictions that my team worked so hard to obtain, and for the justice system itself. After Making a Murderer was released in December 2015, a public sentiment had dramatically shifted from the cops and prosecutors being the good guys, achieving a just result. To the public perception that the cops were crooks and prosecutors, mostly just me, must have engaged in prosecutorial misconduct and most likely conspired with state and local law enforcement agencies to railroad two innocent men for a woman's tragic murder. Right. Again, embedded confessions. So he obviously, at the time of the writing, this was happening, the Brendan Dassey case and appeals, right? So I'll be wondering if Mr. Kratz writes a third edition with the updates to what happened to Brendan Dassey. All right. Now, let me have a look. Do we have another slide? Jack 65.
Can I say something, Dr. Silkman?
Oh, yep, you can.
To the prior slide and statement, what he said that enter Kathleen Zellner, somebody with a shady ethical values. What did he say? Something like that. That
Correct.
was a pure projection. And there's so many people in the chat who said that he is extremely jealous and envious of Kathleen's power. And then Jinx said something really powerful. She said, I agree. And I don't know. I forgot. Okay, he said he likes being the villain, being Kratz.
Oh, that's correct.
It makes him feel powerful, but there's so much more power in the truth and owning your shit. And beautifully said, but he that's a foreign concept to him.
Correct.
Because he does not speak the truth, and B, as you said, he likes being a villain because power is power, whether on the good side or on the bad side.
Correct. 100% correct. Now, this is very interesting. Before we do the acknowledgement section, this is what Mr. Kratz wrote as part of his chapter. He goes, I quote, "From the media standpoint, a multi-part series is being produced, having the working title Convicting a Murderer. Convicting a murderer may finally provide millions of worldwide Avery case followers a direct rebuttal for both Ma'am 1 and Ma'am 2. So he wrote this towards the end of his book. And here's the question to the panel and people in chat. Does anyone believe that convicting a murderer will convert any truthers to guilters? And here's the other question. I know, compound question, Neverly. Why didn't law enforcement officers and the prosecuting attorneys appear in Ma'am when asked? Right? So, do you think convicting is going to change anyone's opinion? And Neverly?
No, I don't believe so. Everything is possible, but is it probable? I don't think so. And for your second question, I forgot, sorry.
The second question was, why didn't law enforcement and the prosecuting attorneys appear in Ma'am? Why didn't the Hallpark family appear in Ma'am?
I may be naive to think that they didn't want the law enforcement and prosecution to be a part of that, is because of the shenanigans that they were playing, like we've been discussing all these years. So that would be documented and memorialized. And that's why I think they didn't want to be a part of that. Okay.
So it'll be very interesting when convicting actually comes out. It'll be very interesting how that plays down and how it goes down. Susan, thank you, Neverly. Susan, do you have a comment?
I don't think there's any way that convicting could sway my belief in their innocence, for the simple fact that we have dug so deep into this case, into Stephen Avery, into everything. I just can't imagine that they're going to put something on there that's going to convince me otherwise.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Susan. Jack 61.
I have to agree with Susan, with the caveat, of course, is that the average viewer. Let me strike that in my lawyer speak. I think that any real truther that's stuck with this, as we have, and so many other people, the people that lurk that we don't ever even hear from, but they're there nonetheless, and they're following the evidence as us and other people bring it out. I don't think that convicting can change anything. They may give a different viewpoint, and we may get to hear from other people and their view, and which again that could lead somewhere totally that we don't know about at all right now, and lead us to something good. But to change, I think maybe the average person it could sway them because they haven't done their homework. So
correct
from that perspective. And then what was the second part?
The second part is, why didn't law enforcement and the prosecuting attorneys nor the Hallbach family appear in MAM? Talk to the...
Yeah, my feeling is that they knew it was going to be memorialized, and they would be locked into it, and that's a really slippery thing for them. So the safe thing to do is say, no, I'm not doing it.
Correct. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a program, I think, called Murder at the Cecil Hotel, which was mind-blowing.
Oh,
right?
That was great.
And that one there was incredible because you had truthers, guilters, law enforcement, all giving their point of view. And it was brilliant because it gave a balance, and it goes to show that to hear the voices of both sides is so critical. And it also demonstrated when you go wrong, when your hypotheses are wrong, and you have to be brave enough to admit you got things wrong, right? And that's why you need to gain and gather as much information as possible before you draw a conclusion, right? And I remember watching the series, the episodes, thinking, oh my God, this showed a balanced viewpoint, right? From everyone, from internet people that studied the case really intently to law enforcement, right? And what happened to that poor girl, and how the wrong conclusion was drawn, and how they pointed the finger at the wrong person who they thought was guilty of murder, right? And it goes to show mistakes can be made, right? And that's the whole idea. And that's why making a murderer, in my opinion, would have been richer had law enforcement, had the Hallbach family, had the prosecuting DAs been involved in the process from the start, right? And none of this crap about, oh, you're showing bias, you're showing editing. Well, appear, talk. And therefore you give your viewpoint, your balanced viewpoint. It would have made making a murder even more balanced. Do you know what I mean? Neverly, do you have a quick comment?
What you said about the Cecil Hotel, actually, the internet sleuthers they made a grave mistake when they were accusing that one guy who really had nothing to do with it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But then remember Don't Fuck with Cats documentary?
Oh, yeah.
It was the internet sleuthers who caught the guy, who figured it out where he was and his whereabouts and whatnot. So it goes both ways.
Brilliant.
But we do need to be careful. We need to be thorough. We need to do our homework and whatnot. But imagine if you saw all the judges and district attorneys making the gentleman agreements, and that's all memorialized, so people get to talk about it. Oh my gosh, no, they were hiding from it. It was, like garlic time to the vampires,
Correct. 100% correct. But you have to admit, a balanced viewpoint is very important.
Yes.
To do a counter documentary now is just so ridiculous. Whereas back then,
ridiculous.
When the filmmakers were there, that was the opportunity to speak, right? That was the to say, hey, look, you got this wrong, you got this right. Let's talk about it. To do a counter documentary now, I think is going to be potentially explosive and may cause even more controversy rather than quell the fires.
Yeah, because they come so many years late to the game.
Right.
And it's like very childish, actually, and irresponsible when you think about it, because they can say whatever they want. It's like fighting with somebody and then leaving without, getting the counter argument. You can't do
Correct.
that, and that's exactly what's going to be convicting, in my opinion. Yeah.
Correct. 100% correct. Jack 61, can we have the final slide? This is under the acknowledgement sections. And it caught my attention. Do we have a final slide there, Jack 61? Or was that it? Here we go. This is under the acknowledgement section, and this is very, very interesting indeed. And I'll read it out. Special thanks to Brenda Schuller, who provided hours of research and fact-checking for this project, and who has since become an amazing friend and confidant. Now, why are you smiling there, Neverly? Why are you smiling there, Neverly?
It's nice that he has a friend and a confidant. That's very nice. I'm happy for him.
And Jack 61, do we happen to know who that third party is involved in the Colburn Netflix civil defamation suit?
It's Brenda Schuller.
It's Brenda Schuller.
That's right.
Okay. Guys, I think we'll leave it at that, right? Now, that is the end. We have done it. There is no
wow.
So look,
we're gonna cry now. Great job, Dr. Silkman. Great job.
Yes. So look,
you suffered some PTSD from this case, haven't you?
Correct.
From the book, not the case.
I used to have a head of hair as well.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's correct. So look, guys, all jokes aside, I'd like to thank my panel, and I'd like to thank everyone in the chat for supporting us over close to a year following this book. And I really hope that you have learned a lot, that we've taken apart this book. I believe we have been fair. We've gone to original documents. We don't make statements unless we can back them up. And I'd like to thank everyone, and hopefully that you found this particular podcast series very entertaining. I certainly have learnt a lot. I'm still doing a series of podcasts with Jeff Jones and a panel every week, where we're looking at both Making a Murderer 1, Season 1 and Season 2, and we're commenting on that. And with Kelly Coles is doing some live blood experiments. So both Neverly and myself, I believe, or maybe a week or two time, will start a new series where we're looking at John Farrak's book. Neverly, do you have any comments about that?
Oh, no. Right.
Okay.
Maybe take a couple of weeks off or something.
Yeah, I think I do.
To recuperate.
I think I need a couple of weeks off and see a therapist or an exorcist.
Yes.
But I want to thank everyone in chat for your fantastic support. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave your DNA on the thumbs up. And please check out that little video that I did on the DNA methylation. I really would like to get your comments and opinion. And if you like those short presentations, let me know, because the team will do a few of them straight to the point. They're very informative. And yes, I'd like to leave the last word to our esteemed panel. We'll go down the panel. Tell us how you've gone and what you thought of the series. Alice.
I'm sorry. I have one brief question before we move forward. This new series, is it going to be live?
Yes, we're going to do a live. Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to
Thank
do
you.
live.
Thank you.
So we're not going to, guys, we're not going to do a pre-recording. Both Neville and myself, but Neville is the one driving it. We'll do a series of podcasts like this, but reading passages from John Farrak's book, and then we'll have discussions. So it'll be interactive. There'll be people in chat. There'll be people on the panel. Everyone's invited, guys, right? The more discussions we have, the better. Yeah, so we'll do it live. We'll do it live. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, Alice, what did you think of the series so far?
Yeah, I think we've done a great job, Doc. Just breaking it down chapter by chapter, showing everybody the utter bullshit and the utter lies that he put out. And I mean, this was supposed to be what Making a Murderer never showed you, you know, whereas everything in it was shown, but it just wasn't shown in the light and in the narrative that Kratz wanted it to be shown, you know. And I think it's just ridiculous that he even attempted to write this book, to try and right the wrongs that clearly millions of people all over the globe have noticed, you know. I mean, I watched the first 3 episodes of Ma'am, and I was like, no way, this guy's been fucking set up, you know what I mean, by the same cops who got him in the first place, you know. There's got to be something here, and for him to go writing a book to try and right their wrongs, as everybody said, that goes to his narcissism, you know.
Correct.
So I think it's been brilliant how we've covered it, even though it's took us enough a year. I think maybe something that we could do in the future with, you know, with other things like you and Everly are doing, John Farrak and things like that. Maybe we can do something like this on another sort of book, maybe to do with the case, you know. We've got Sean Atwood out there who wrote a book. Grace has wrote about, 4 or 5 books or something like that on the case. So I would like to actually maybe take a look and see what he's done in his books, but then I don't want to waste my money on shite.
Correct.
You know what I mean, Doc? So I would just like to applaud yourself for having to bear and read that whole shit book, you know, and to us for breaking it down, and to the lovely people in the chat for letting us do it and giving their opinions and everything like that on it. And for what I've seen, we're all on the same page when it comes to this case, which is a good thing.
Correct. No, it's been an honour to be part of the team, the Foul Play team. I think we're very unique in that regard, and the hard work that everyone has put in and the input from you guys has just been astronomical. I couldn't do it by myself. But I must admit, it's going to be very strange not getting up on a Sunday morning doing reading with Uncle Ken. But we've done the hard work. We've got 63 podcasts. Anyone now can go back and listen to the podcast and learn a lot about the case straight from the horse's mouth. You can't get any better than that. So we've covered a huge amount of stuff. Thank you very much, Alice. Jack 61, what did you think of the overall series?
You know, I think that, you know, with, and speaking of Ma'am, the series, there's so much of it that I really liked, and it was a catalyst for me because I followed true crime, you know, kind of lurk here, work there for years, and really had become more interested in it. Oh, you know, probably the 8 or 10 years prior to Ma'am coming out. And then when it came out, I think it really displayed for a lot of people this really dark underside of our criminal justice system and how it really can work in the worst way possible. And then you get a guy like Ken Krause, his character, he's almost a cartoon caricature, the villain.
Yeah. Yes.
And in his attempt, no matter what, his attempt to try to justify what he's done, it's just, to me, it's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So,
yes.
But, along the way, we've done a lot of great research. And interestingly enough, between this podcast, Open Mic, the other, Crime Theory Exchange, and all the others, and even others beyond Foul Play, it's brought in a lot of other things that we might not necessarily have looked at, right? It's
correct.
We get interested in another trail that's led us to some good information. So it's been a really positive, I think, overall. Really positive.
Correct. The other important thing, Jack 61, is that we've looked at other cases as well.
That's right.
And we've interacted with a lot of people. You and I interacted with Mani Tafari, who was Nick Hillary's attorney. We did a series of podcasts of that, and they've been really well received. Oh my God, it's amazing the people that you attract in your chat and your comments.
I'd love to get I'd love to get him on and talk at some point. Have you two guys just let you interview him like we did with Dr. Sandra Lean. It was really good, and we can learn a lot from an actual lawyer. And I will say, speaking of that, Andy B is to my attention last week, and I apologize. I've tried to spend as much time as I could, away from all this other, the DVDs and the FOIA, but there's a thing called the Making a Murder musical that he was talking to, and this, I can't think of his name, Phil, I can't remember his last name. He watches us religiously, and he is a guy that does this musical. It's actually, it's in Europe doing whatever. I've never seen any part of it, and I know that people may think a musical over something as dark as this, but we can't forget how music has driven the world and that aspect. I'd really like to get. I've actually sent him a message to if he would like to have a conversation.
Neely.
Is that his name? Phil
Neely.
There you go.
Phil Neely. Andy B says.
Yep. There we go.
Thank you, Andy.
Yep. Thank you very much. I'd like to get him on, and have a conversation, and because he believes what we believe. So
awesome.
We'll see where that goes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack 61.
Can I just pipe in for a second?
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell Alice that it's actually showing in Edinburgh right now.
Oh.
Production of it.
The musical.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. Neverly, what did you think of the Reading with Uncle Ken podcast series?
Well, what I think about it, first of all, I want to thank you because you really did this on your own and you were a trooper. I don't think that you knew what you were getting into. It was dark. It was really hard to listen to and analyze. Yeah, very, very dark. So thank you. And over the course of the year and all these podcasts, so much has happened and we're still here. You, the panel, all our loyal supporters. I mean, week after week after week, the same people show up. And I love it. So I want to really thank you and our supporters in the chat, asking all these questions and listening to all of these misfortunate events with us. But, along with education and aggravation, there was a lot of, tears and laughter. So we experienced it all, I think. And who would have thunk that this stupid, irrational book of lies would bring us together actually and stronger. So that was really great. And while this series was going on, I've been to Vegas 4 times. I've been to Serbia, Germany, and Virginia.
Why?
Yeah, so it's been over a year. A lot of things are, happening in our own lives. So no, I think that's really awesome.
Thank you so much, Emily. Appreciate that.
We learned a lot, even through all the bullshit
We
that,
have learned.
Kratz, we learned a lot. Yeah.
We have learned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neville. I don't recall. How about yourself?
I thought it was fascinating the way you tore it apart, piece by piece, and not once did and I don't think anybody else in our community left it thinking, oh my God, maybe we're wrong. He could be guilty. He's guilty. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
It all keeps showing, that more and more that they're innocent. And after I read Greasebox 2 books, I noticed that he and Kratz both, it's always we're duped by a documentary. They don't take into consideration all the documents that, I haven't seen every document, but amongst us all, we have everyone that we could get anyway, and nothing shows, points, oh, he's guilty, Some of it we don't know everything yet, so we can't say for sure, but
correct.
Yeah, it's been very good.
Thank you. In time, we will find out. We will find out. This case will be cracked, one way or the other. We will find out. Thank you so much. I don't recall. Now, Sugar, this book was about you. You.
Oh, I'm going to miss you, Doc. I have to say that this past year actually, in a way has been very painful to look at this man's words and, suffer through his bullshit. But in another way, it's been really good tearing it apart and putting the truth out there, what's the word? Just showing where he's just full of shit. And it's in almost all of it, everything that he says in there. It's just a book full of lies. Even though I say it's painful, it's also been, a good thing to put out and show what a narcissistic, lying asshole the man is.
And how destructive.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Thank you very much, Susan.
Sure.
And thank you. Just Rhonda, what about yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Silkman. First, I want to say thank you to you, Dr. Silkman, for doing it, what you've done, like everyone else has mentioned. I had the book for a long, long time, and I didn't have the balls to read it. I just couldn't. I had it, but I could never bring myself to read it. I was just disgusted by it altogether, by him writing the book altogether, and what little bit I had heard and the reviews I had seen on Amazon. I was just like, nope, can't read it. So I really appreciate that you had the courage and the strength and the energy to read it and break it all down for us, so that we could, learn and understand and dispute every single thing he said, basically. And to all the panel members over the year that have been participated off and on. But I really want to say thank you to everybody in chat. And I know somebody else mentioned it a minute ago, but some of the folks that are in our chat right now have made every single podcast they haven't listened. And there's been so much amazing, great contribution from our chat. And I think I can speak for all of us when I say how much we really appreciate all of you in chat. As to the book itself, like I said, I couldn't read it myself, but he just made himself look like an even bigger fool than I think we all already believe he is. And some of the passages were just so horrific and disgusting that I
Yeah.
I hated to even give it any time, but what I really think was
Right.
so awesome about it for the most part is that not only did we, break down the and answer questions about the book itself, but it also brought so much more conversation to the podcast, because we were able to, based on whatever question you might have been, asking us based on a passage, we would inevitably be able to have really good in-depth conversations about
Yes.
parts of the case that some people may not have been exposed to otherwise. So if nothing else, it was good for the compare and contrast for sure that we were able to give it. So thank
Correct.
you.
No, thank you very much. That's been awesome. Jack 61, any final comments?
No, Doc. I was just waiting until we finish.
Awesome.
Just quickly, Doc. Yeah, making a musical, making a murderer the musical is actually going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. From the 3rd of August to the 29th of August, and it's going to be at the Underbelly, Bristol Square in Edinburgh. And the tickets are £9 a shot, so I'm going to see if I can afford to maybe get a ticket.
Okay.
It's all for an hour. So I'll see if I can afford to do that. And I'll try and go along and see how it actually is.
That'll be awesome.
Might be a good use of foul play funds.
Yeah.
It would.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
We'll show,
Yeah. Maybe we can send the foul play car to Doc.
Yeah, the Lamborghini,
Which
the red
one?
one that Doc put in.
Red or blue? Red or blue?
Do lovely. The red one, that'll be lovely, Doc. Just drop it off and drop me there.
Done. Awesome. And we, of course, would expect a podcast from you, Alice, after you go and see them.
Yeah.
All right. Neville, did you have any? Thank you, Alice. Neville, did you have any final comments?
Yeah. You know what happened, Dr. Silkman, over the last year doing all these gratis pamphlet? You became fluent in French.
Well, yeah, well.
Hey, that's a skill.
Yes, I did say F-bombs, and I blame Alice and BB.
No, don't blame him. Thank him. So you have new skills. Your vocabulary is phenomenal now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, look, guys, thank you so much. So, like I said, we'll get together again soon. Neville and I will do that series from Farak's book, and we'll do a similar type of presentation here, whereby we'll read passages and then we'll do discussions. So again, guys, I'd like to thank everyone in chat for your continuous support, and everyone on the panel for putting up with me for a year and the book. And guys, we'll all catch you very soon. Take care.
This has been a Foul Play production.